guys! So today we're going to talk about hair loss in women and ways to prevent it. So first things first, if you think you are losing more than 50 to 100 strands of hair a day, then maybe it would be a good idea for you to talk to your doctor about why that could be happening. A lot of times it has to do with hormonal issues or an imbalance of some nutrients or any of those kinds of things that you need. So hair loss is often a symptom of a greater issue. So maybe you have a thyroid disorder, maybe you are anemic, maybe there are other sort of imbalances, maybe it's something as simple as a medication that you're taking isn't sitting well with you. But if you feel like you are losing more than 50 to 100 strands of hair a day over a consistent amount of time and you can't figure out why, and I'll tell you some ideas of reasons why you could be today, but if you feel like you're not one of those, then definitely talk with your doctor about it and see if there's anything that he knows, or maybe you just need to do a blood workup and see if everything is in check with your body. But I'm not a doctor, I'm just a hairstylist, and so I'm going to share with you guys today some tips and tricks and maybe some remedies for ways to prevent hair loss. The first thing is, when you're in the shower, make sure that you don't comb through your hair like with your fingertips or even with a brush in the shower. Your follicle is more open when it's wet and when it's hot. So if you're in a steamy shower, the follicle, which is at the base of your hair, what your hair is sitting inside, is going to be more open and more vulnerable at that point. So if you're brushing through your hair, you could, without realizing it, be pulling out strands of hair that weren't necessarily ready to fall out yet, just because that follicle was open and you pulled a little bit too hard. After you dry your hair and after your scalp, the skin in your scalp has kind of closed back up because of it being colder, then it'll tighten around that hair, the shaft of the hair, a little bit better, so you can be a little bit more rough with it. But when your hair is wet and warm, especially in the shower, don't be trying to brush your hair. You're going to take out more hair than is necessary. Stuff that would still be growing on its own will be falling out, and it won't necessarily feel like you've pulled your hair out because the follicle is more open. So that's the first step. Don't brush your hair or even finger comb through your hair in the shower. Wait until your hair is about, at least 50% dry before trying to comb through or brush it. I would recommend waiting until it's like 80% dry and then going through and round brushing your hair or blow drying your hair with a brush or any of those other methods, just to prevent even more. And especially, we're worried about how it's doing at this scalp. This part doesn't have to be 100% dry before doing it, but at the root, you definitely don't want to be brushing your hair until you can tell that has cooled off and isn't soft and wet anymore. The other tip that you can do with that is, at the end of your shower, rinse your hair and your scalp with cold water. It'll do amazing things for your hair strand, like preventing breakage and adding shine and closing up the cuticle. But also at the follicle, once the skin gets cold, it tightens back up and restricts, and so that will keep that hair in there. So keep those two things in mind when you're in the shower. Another tip is to keep your brush clean. All of the hairs that build up in your hairbrush can actually make knots or snarls or whatever you want to call it with your hair as you're brushing it. But if it's a clean brush, it's going to be much easier to just brush the hair out, and you're not going to be adding more hair into the mix and adding more knots into the mix as you're brushing that hair. The other thing that's nice about keeping your brush clean is each time that you brush your hair, I just get in the habit of going through and grabbing all of the hairs and throwing it away. And what that does for me is it lets me know how much hair I'm losing. I have struggled with a thyroid disorder my whole life, and one of the best ways for me to tell if my thyroid is out of whack or not is by how much hair I'm losing. So for me, I like to know how much hair I'm losing on any given day. And if I can tell that I'm losing more, then I know that I need to go and get my blood work done. But if not, and I'm just doing the average amount, then I'm not getting stressed about how much hair is building up on my brush. I'm keeping those snarls from adding any extra, knots as I'm brushing through my hair, and it lets me keep track of just how much hair loss I'm losing so that I can stay on top of my hair and make sure that I'm taking care of it the best that I can. So, just so you guys know, the average person has 100,000 strands of hair on their head, and the average person also will be losing about 50 to 100 strands of those any given day. So don't be worried if you feel like you are a person that loses so much hair, or that when you brush your hair there's so much on there. One, when hair is wet, it looks like less than when it's dry. So if you are thinking, oh, well, I'm doing this thing that Valerie told me to do and I'm not brushing my hair in the shower, but when I was pulling the hairs out in the shower, it only seemed like a little bit, but now when it's dry and I'm pulling the hairs out of my brush, I'm seeing so much more. Well, hair is going to look like there's more of it when it's dry, so don't be alarmed by that. The other thing is, hair goes through cycles. There are 3 cycles that the hair is in at any given time, and those are anagen, catagen, and telogen. And basically that just means, anagen means that it's growing, it's developing, there are nutrients going to the hair shaft through the follicle, and it's growing, and most of your hair is in that stage. Catagen means that it's resting, and all that means is it's not currently growing anymore, but it's still in the follicle, and it's just kind of sitting there and waiting for the telogen cycle, which is the cycle of falling out. So your hair is going through that cycle all the time, and it's not just either in your hair or out of your hair. It's an evolving circle, and so that's another reason why you need to always get your hair cut and trimmed, is because that style really does grow out, because as the cycle works its way through the strands in your hair, each strand, isn't going to grow at the exact same rate. So if you cut your hair like this, then a year from now, that haircut is no longer structurally there anymore, because your hair has gone through so many different cycles of that anagen, catagen, and telogen. So if you are a person who you genuinely feel like your hair will not grow past a certain point, sometimes it's because of this cycle. You just have a shorter cycle span than maybe someone that grows hair really long. Their anagen phase lasts for longer than yours does, and so sometimes the issue is definitely breakage, sometimes it's because of how you're treating your hair, but sometimes the issue might just be that that's the type of hair cycle that you have. So maybe just start thinking about either some really cute hairstyles that look good at that length that you can just never get past, or think about extensions. But first, try to fix the breakage and make sure that isn't an issue. But if you really have been trying at it and it just will not grow past that certain length, sometimes it's just your hair cycle. The other thing that I do just want to let everyone know is, anytime that you have a change in medication or a major life event that causes stress or anxiety, or if you've ever been put under general anesthesia or have anything that just really is rocking your hormones, a lot of times, well, like 90% of the time, 3 months after that big life event, you are going to notice a change in the amount of hair that you lose. And it usually lasts for a couple of months and then works its way back to being the cycle that it was before. But basically what's happening is, due to this surge of medication or hormones or any of those, things that happen when your body is going through a stress or a big change, it affects a portion of the hair that is in that anagen stage. And so it takes about 3 months for the catagen stage to go through, and then the telogen cycle happens where they start to fall out. So keep that in mind. If you're noticing a big change, think back 3 months ago and what happened. And just like if you've had a baby, or if you've had a surgery, or if you got married, or if you had any sort of change in your medication or any other super stressful event in your life, know that probably in 3 months you're going to notice a little bit more hair falling out, but that is to be expected and that is totally natural. Let it run its course for a couple of months, and it should go back to normal. But if you do notice that it is sticking around and it's staying, then maybe the medication that you did try isn't doing very well in your system, or maybe there is something else that you can change in your life in order to try and prevent that from happening. If you guys have any other questions about your hair, or specifically hair loss in general, feel free to ask me in the comments below. At this time, I do not have any specific products that I would like to recommend to you for hair loss. I know there are a ton out there, some professional, some that you can find at the drugstore, but I personally haven't tried them enough on myself. I have recommended the Bosley shampoo and conditioners and the mousse and those products to my clients before, and they have seen results, but because I haven't seen them personally on myself and I haven't been able to track them, it's not something that I feel like I could recommend and promise to you guys that it would work for you. There are a ton of reviews online. I just recommend checking them out for yourself. So if you do feel like that, then know that there are products out there, and I can recommend some in the comments below. Maybe just give you guys some recommendations of websites to look at for those reviews. But for right now, I just say make sure that you keep your brushes clean of all hair so that you're not causing any extra snarls as you're combing your hair out, and make sure not to finger comb or brush your hair when it is wet and when you're in the shower. Those two things really have helped me, and I've definitely been able to notice a difference, and I recommend this to my clients as well, and they have all of them that I've recommended it to have noticed a difference in their hair as well. So take those 2 steps, do that first, and then if you still feel like it's necessary to go, another step farther, talk to your doctor or check out the products that I have recommended below. But thank you so much for watching. I hope that this answers some questions, and I will write about the hair cycles, the catagen, telogen, anagen cycles on my blog, and give you a little review if you want to check up on it again later, and that will be linked in the description box below as well. I really hope that you guys learned something about your hair today. I hope that you guys will be able to take these tips and apply them so that you can keep all of the strands of hair on your head that you want. As always, thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions, just let me know.